Hey, welcome back to my studio. If you're new here, my name's Morgan and I make all things party and event. And today I want to show you how to build an apple box. Now these are staples in both the film and the theater industries, but they're also super helpful when it comes to planning parties and events. So follow along and I'll show you how to make one. First of all, apple boxes are always a standard size of 20 by 12 by 8 inches tall. And that means if you buy or make apple boxes, you can get a bunch of these all together into large configurations and they'll always fit together. These boxes are made from either 3/4 inch plywood or 1/2 inch plywood. And for the boxes I'm making today, I'm using 1/2 inch ACX plywood, and to make one box, you'll need a 2 by 4 foot section of plywood. I love buying this size because they're easy to handle and they fit great in the back of my hatchback car, but if you're planning to make multiple apple boxes, you may want to buy a full sheet of plywood. Back in the workshop, I cut my handy panel down to size using a circular saw, and out of this handy panel, you're going to be cutting 2 pieces that are 20 by 12 inches long, 2 pieces that are 20 by 7 inches long, and 3 pieces that are 7 by 11. If you'd like a set of plans and a cut list, I've got that linked in the description box below, and it's available to all my Patreon members. From here, I'm going to take my 2 small end pieces and cut handle holes into them. And to start off, I'm going to make a mark 1.5 inches in from all of the edges, and this will be the guide for my handle holes. I'll drill 4 holes, one on the inside of each of these corners, using a 1-inch wide Forstner bit on my hand drill. And to help prevent blowout on the backside of my plywood, I'm going to put a scrap piece of wood underneath where I'm drilling so I don't have super rough edges. I align the drill bit so my finished cut sits just inside each corner. And once I've got all 4 holes drilled into both end pieces, I'm going to draw a line connecting the very edges of each of those circles together horizontally, and that will be the finished size of our handles. So once I've got the lines made, I'm then going to cut that out using a jigsaw with a plywood blade in it. To make the handles more comfortable to hold on to, I'm going to go around all the edges with an 1/8 inch round over bit in my router. Now if you don't have a router, you can always just hit these edges with a bit of sandpaper so that when you pick up the box, it's not rough on your hands. Now we can finally start assembling the apple box. And the plywood I'm using is ACX, so there's one side of the plywood that's nicer than the other, and I want to make sure that that nice side is always facing the outside of the box. To secure everything together, I'm going to use some wood glue, and to help that process along, I'm also using a nail gun. The nail gun is to only hold the pieces in place until the wood glue sets, so if you don't have a nail gun, you could always just use traditional clamps to hold everything in place. With the biggest piece flat on the workbench, I'm going to glue down one of my long sides and my 2 short ends right on top of that largest piece. And the most important thing is to make sure that all the edges are flush with the edge of that large piece that's on the table. Once I've got those sitting in place, I'm then going to go in and carefully align all the edges so that they're nice and flush, and then hit it with the nail gun once or twice so it'll hold everything in place until that glue has a chance to set up. If you're using clamps, you can always just clamp these all in place and set it aside for a little while. Next, I'm going to add the center support to the box, and I've already marked the halfway spot on the largest piece so I know that I'm getting this centered. I'm also going to hit it with a square to make sure it's going to stand nice and straight in the middle of my box. So once I've got that glued down, I'm just going to follow it up with a couple nails and secure the last side in the similar way. Once I've got that one in place, I'm then going to put glue on all the top edges and lay the final piece in place. Now just in case it's not 100% square, I'm going to put a nail in the first corner before going over to the second corner and making sure that one's aligned. I'm then going to slowly work my way around the box, putting one pin in each corner, making sure they're all aligned before I put nails in about every couple inches around the entire edge of the box, and then I'm going to go in with a pencil and draw the center line across the top of the box so I can nail across that center support as well. I'll flip it over, nail down the other side, and then wipe away any excess glue squeeze out with a damp paper towel. A couple edges of my plywood had voids in them, and this just comes from the type of plywood I'm using, so I'm going to go in with a little bit of wood filler and just press that into all those holes, as well as any nail holes that the nail gun might have left behind. So press that totally in, scrape away any excess, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry before we add the finishing touches. I went over all the edges of my apple box with that 1/8 inch round over bit in the router once again, just so that all the edges were nice and smooth. Now I was very careful to make sure I didn't hit any of my pin nails as I went around with the router, so just be aware of that as you're doing this. Then I went over each side of the box with some 220 sandpaper. I'm using an orbital sander, but you could use a palm sander or even some hand sanding if you don't have a tool like this on hand. Once you've got everything nice and smooth, then we can think about how we want to finish this box. If you like the look of the wood, you could always go over this with a couple coats of clear polyurethane, or if you wanted this to disappear a little bit more, you could always go over it with a couple coats of black paint. Either method will give a great protective coating to our apple box. I hope you're inspired by today's project and give this one a try. Apple boxes are wonderfully diverse and are a great thing to have in your event inventory. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe below, and don't forget to check out our Patreon group if you'd like to up your party planning game. So until the next time, you can check out some of my other videos over here, and remember, stay creative everyone. Bye!